Hello, I'm Stephen Taylor, and in this video we will be looking at what makes a business and what exactly we mean when we talk about management. On the surface, it seems obvious. We're surrounded by businesses, and we think we know one when we see one. They are commercial entities, enterprises, organisations. They employ people to produce goods or provide services. They serve consumers, and they need to be managed. Management is therefore about directing the activities of a business. All this is true, but when we look at it a little bit more deeply, things are less clear. Not all management activity is carried out in businesses. Management is carried out in organisations, and not all organisations are businesses. Let's look at some examples. Here we are at Exeter Cathedral. Now, churches are large organisations. They're complex with many branches, and many are global in their scale. And like all multinational corporations, they're complex and challenging to manage. But we wouldn't call them businesses. But this is also true of my organisation, the University of Exeter in the southwest region of the UK. We would not generally consider ourselves to be a business, but we have much in common with organisations that are businesses. We carry out activities that people pay for. We don't generally consider our students to be consumers, but they are, at least in some respects, our customers or our clients. And what about the university's student guild? Our student guild isn't a business, is it? It's primarily an organisation that looks after the interests of our students. They elect its officers, and they run campaigns and represent their members. But they also carry out some commercial activities too, running a shop. And what about an institution like a prison? A complex organisation, and one that certainly needs managers. But most people would think it odd if I were to describe a prison as a business. But there are now many privately run prisons. Companies set them up, build them, and also bid for the contracts to run them on behalf of governments. These then are surely businesses. And what about hospitals, such as this one? This is publicly owned and operates as part of the UK's National Health Service. But it also treats private patients, paying customers. And there are plenty of hospitals that are run entirely on commercial lines, doing exactly the same things that this one does, but for a profit. So is it right to say that a commercially run organisation that seeks to maximise profits is a business, while an organisation which is owned publicly to carry out the same activities is not a business? I'm not sure it's as straightforward as that. State-run hospitals, after all, employ plenty of business managers and are obliged to compete with other hospitals for business in the form of patients. A focus on ownership is certainly not the best way of looking at this. Here in the UK, we used to have dozens of public corporations. Now we have only two, the BBC and Network Rail, responsible for running the tracks and stations and railway infrastructure, and that used to be a private company. But elsewhere in the world, public corporations thrive. Nearly all the biggest companies in China, for example, are wholly state-owned enterprises, and very much businesses. There are also plenty of social enterprises, which are privately owned and provide services to consumers, but are not commercial in their aims and objectives.